Introduction. Have you ever faced an unfair HOA fine? Imagine receiving a $500 fine for a simple flower bed. But what happens when the HOA president tries to bully the wrong person? A Supreme Court judge. This is the story of Thomas Blake, who turned the tables on a corrupt HOA president. The unfair fine. Thomas Blake had always envisioned retirement as a time for tranquility and reflection. After decades of service in the judiciary, his dream was to settle into a serene suburban neighborhood, tending to a garden that his late wife, Eleanor, had always dreamed of. The vibrant flower bed in his front yard was more than just a collection of petals and leaves. It was a living tribute to Eleanor's memory, a symbol of love that transcended time. Every morning, Thomas would sip his coffee while admiring the colorful blooms, feeling a sense of peace. However, that peace was shattered when he found a $500 fine notice taped to his front door. The ink was barely dry, and the message was clear. His flower bed was deemed unauthorized. As he held the notice, a mix of disbelief and annoyance washed over him. Across the street, Mark Peterson, the HOA president, was making his rounds, clipboard in hand, a smug grin plastered on his face. Mark, a man known for his rigid enforcement of HOA rules, seemed to revel in his role. Thomas knew this wasn't just about a flower bed. It was about control. But Mark had made one critical error. He had underestimated Thomas Blake. The initial confrontation. Determined to address the issue head-on, Thomas decided to confront Mark. He approached him calmly, holding the fine notice, but this time with a deeper sense of purpose. "Mind explaining what this is about?" Thomas asked, his tone measured but firm, emphasizing every word to assert his presence. Mark barely looked up from his clipboard, feigning disinterest. "Unauthorized flower beds," he replied nonchalantly, flipping through the HOA guidelines as if it were a sacred text. Page 12, landscaping modifications require prior approval. Thomas raised an eyebrow. "I've read the guidelines, and there's no mention of flower beds needing approval." Mark chuckled, but it was a nervous chuckle, sensing a challenge he wasn't used to. "Are you a lawyer or something?" Thomas allowed a small smile that carried years of legal acumen behind it. "Something like that." The subtle exchange intensified as Mark's false confidence clashed with Thomas's quiet authority. "Look, rules are rules," Mark said dismissively, though his voice wavered slightly. "You can pay the fine or file an appeal, but I wouldn't bother. I never lose." Thomas nodded, a glint of determination and a touch of amusement in his eyes. "Good to know," he replied, already planning his next move, knowing this confrontation was just the first step in a much larger battle that would shake the community to its core. Discovering inconsistencies. That evening, Thomas sat in his study, surrounded by stacks of legal documents and the HOA bylaws he had printed before moving in. His legal instincts kicked in as he meticulously combed through the rules. Hours passed as he analyzed every clause, footnote, and amendment. It didn't take long for him to spot the inconsistencies, but what truly caught his attention was the pattern behind them. While his flower bed was supposedly a violation, Mark's own property was riddled with infractions: overgrown hedges that exceeded height limits, a mailbox that wasn't HOA approved, and an oil-stained driveway that should have warranted fines long ago. Thomas realized that the rules were not the issue. The issue was Mark's selective enforcement. Thomas's mind raced as he recalled conversations with neighbors and past encounters with Mark. He thought about the psychological tactics Mark used to intimidate residents, the fear he instilled, and the arbitrary nature of his penalties. This wasn't just about maintaining community standards. It was about power, control, and exploitation. Thomas, fueled by his sense of justice, knew that this discovery was only the tip of the iceberg, and he needed to delve even deeper to bring the full truth to light. Gathering evidence. Determined to build a solid case, Thomas began gathering evidence with even more fervor. He took numerous photographs of Mark's violations from every angle, created detailed logs of each infraction, and meticulously timestamped his findings. He spent evenings talking to neighbors, gathering not just facts but personal stories of hardship caused by unfair fines. An elderly couple who had lived there for decades opened up about the stress of their $1,200 fine for an off-white garage door, detailing how they struggled to pay it. A single mother tearfully recounted how her $500 fine for a security camera put her behind on her mortgage. A military veteran, haunted by the fear of losing his home over minor landscaping issues, shared every document he had. Thomas listened, empathized, and built a comprehensive case. He dug into past records, finding dozens more cases of unfair treatment. Each story added weight to his cause, and each piece of evidence painted a clearer picture of Mark's abuse of power. Thomas left no stone unturned, turning a simple investigation into a monumental pursuit of justice. Financial corruption unveiled. With his case against Mark growing stronger, Thomas turned his attention to the HOA's finances. Using his legal background, he accessed the annual budget reports and started analyzing them in painstaking detail. He cross-referenced bank statements, expense reports, and transaction histories, finding a web of deceit. What he found was shocking. Over 40% of the fines collected were unaccounted for. Each document revealed another layer of corruption. Falsified invoices, inflated costs for minor repairs, and mysterious withdrawals with no explanations. The neighborhood's amenities were in disrepair. Roads had cracks, the community pool had been closed for months, and the clubhouse was outdated. Thomas suspected embezzlement and dug deeper, uncovering that Mark had been siphoning funds for personal expenses, including luxury vacations, paying off debts, and even expensive gifts. Thomas compiled every financial discrepancy into a meticulous report, ready to expose the full scale of Mark's corruption. 6. The showdown. Armed with irrefutable evidence, Thomas attended the next HOA meeting, which was packed with homeowners eager to voice their frustrations. The tension was palpable as residents whispered among themselves, each recalling their own encounters with Mark's oppressive rule. As Mark attempted to assert his dominance, Thomas calmly presented his findings, each piece of evidence more damning than the last. He detailed every financial discrepancy with precision, displayed Mark's multiple violations through well-documented photos, and finally revealed video footage of Mark vandalizing Thomas's driveway to justify another fine. Gasps echoed through the room as disbelief turned to outrage. Homeowners, emboldened by Thomas's courage, began voicing their own grievances loudly. The atmosphere grew heated as years of frustration erupted. Police were called to maintain order, but once Thomas handed over his meticulously compiled evidence, they turned their attention to Mark. The final blow came when the officers approached Mark, read him his rights, and arrested him on the spot for fraud, embezzlement, and financial mismanagement, ending his reign of terror once and for all. Justice served. With Mark behind bars, the HOA dissolved, and homeowners received refunds for their unjust fines. A simple neighborhood council was formed to address genuine community needs, focusing on fairness and transparency. Thomas, now a symbol of justice, was celebrated by the community, with neighbors expressing gratitude for his relentless pursuit of truth. As news of his victory spread, Thomas found himself approached by other neighborhoods seeking his help against corrupt HOAs. Each new request brought stories of injustice and abuse, reinforcing the importance of his work. Thomas reflected on his journey, knowing that every effort made a difference. With a smile, Thomas agreed to help, proving that standing up against corruption can lead to positive change and inspiring others to do the same. His legacy became one of hope, integrity, and unwavering commitment to justice. This story teaches us that power in the wrong hands leads to downfall. Have you experienced HOA troubles? Share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring tales of justice. Lessons learned. This story emphasizes the importance of standing up against injustice. Thomas Blake relentlessly pursued the truth, using his knowledge and experience to expose corruption and protect his community. It serves as a reminder that even in the face of power and threats, courage and determination will always lead to victory. Additionally, it highlights the value of community solidarity. When people come together, support each other, and refuse to be silenced, they can overcome even the most challenging adversities. This story also teaches that holding those in power accountable is essential for creating a fair and just society. Meaningful message. No one has the right to abuse power to oppress others. Anyone can be a hero if they dare to stand up for justice. This story delivers a powerful message about bravery, resilience, and the fight against corruption. Personal opinion. Personally, I find this story inspiring and meaningful. It shows that with courage and determination, we can create positive change. Thomas Blake not only defended himself, but also helped his community find fairness. This is a story that everyone can learn from and apply to their own lives. Call to action. Follow and subscribe to the Story Precious channel to never miss heartwarming and meaningful stories like this in future videos. If you have an HOA story or any unfair experiences, share them with us in the comments. Don't forget to like and share to spread positive messages to the community.